Still with us is Marcy Wheeler, who runs the website emptywheel.net, no relation to Rod Wheeler, who brought the lawsuit against his former network, Fox. Marcy, explain, lay this very tangled web out.
What's important about the White House involvement is that when the story first came out in May, Sean Spicer was asked, did you have any involvement in this? And he denied it very aggressively to NBC. And then yesterday, he was quoted as confirming that he was involved prior to the actual release of the story. So all of a sudden, now that Spicer is losing his job at the White House, his story has changed.
Well, wait, let me play what Sean Spicer said, then the White House press secretary, in May about the Seth Rich story.
Sean, can we get a White House reaction or the president's reaction to the report that Seth Rich was emailing WikiLeaks before his murder?
I'm not aware of. I generally, I don't get updates on former DNC staffers. I'm not aware of that.
It would certainly have a great influence on where the leaks came from. If they could potentially, I mean, there's a lot of implications in the story, of course, but
I understand that. But for me to comment from here about an ongoing investigation, I believe it's still ongoing. I don't even know the status of it in terms of D.C., but it would be highly inappropriate to do that.
So that was Sean Spicer in May. In fact, he had a meeting in April with Butowski and with Wheeler, right, Marcy?
Right. And so all of a sudden, his story has changed. And that is, I think, one of the most important parts of the lawsuit. I mean, it's important for people to remember that a lawsuit is just a lawsuit, and you can make any kinds of claims in that you want. Although Wheeler claims to have documentation of Butowski, who is the donor, of the Fox journalist involved, both of them admitting that they effectively attributed these quotes to him when they weren't his quotes. He claims to have his own quotes that he gave to the journalists, which were scrapped in favor of these ones, which basically said that the DNC or DC government had thwarted the investigation into Seth Rich's murder, and also said that Rich's computer had evidence that he was in communication with WikiLeaks. So those are the two invented quotes. That's what the gist of the lawsuit is about. Wheeler said, you invented these quotes, you attributed them to me, even after retracting the story. You have not retracted the association between me and those quotes. And so what he's asking for is compensation for having been defamed by Fox News, because those quotations, which have been discredited, are still there in his name, and he never said them.
And talk about that text that Rod Wheeler, the former police detective, got from Butowski, if this is true, the donor, the longtime Trump supporter and donor, that said the president has read this and he wants this to be published.
Right, and the idea is, and again, this is a really well-written lawsuit to capture the attention of the press. At the very beginning of the lawsuit, they start with this text. The idea is that these quotations, which were not Wheeler's, he claims, these quotations ended up in the story attributed to him because the president wanted them there, because the president wanted to push back. And again, the lawsuit makes it very clear. This story came out in the wake of the Jim Comey firing. So the story gets started back in February. It's kind of churning along all along the way. Jim Comey gets fired, and within days, Fox News presents this story trying to create an entirely different narrative about Russia's involvement and Seth Rich's involvement in the leaked emails to WikiLeaks. And so it's a response, allegedly, to the Jim Comey firing. It is an attempt to present an alternative story. Again, it's another lie that came from at least the White House, or at least the involvement of the White House, about the role of Russia in getting Trump elected. And Butowski, at least, this is the donor from Texas, Butowski, at least in his texts, he's now claiming he was joking, but at least in his texts, he said that the president had already seen the story and was pushing to get the story on the air on Fox News. So if Butowski's texts are right, and I suspect he may one day be put under oath by somebody like Robert Mueller, if those texts are right, then it's another incident where Donald Trump personally involved in trying to rebut this, the intelligence community's findings about Russia involvement in getting him elected.